First, we'll load up our single-stack box magazine. Like so many other automatics, we'll be readying the pistol by manually retracting this sliding breech block. However, because this is the 1900, this is the first time in history that what we know of as the modern slide has been introduced on a pistol. So let's appreciate that while we draw it back and release. Now the slide isn't just for readying the gun or keeping the components protected. It also locks the breech to the barrel. A set of recesses in the top of the slide match up with lugs on the top of the barrel when it is in the upright and forward position. Firing the pistol causes the barrel and slide to recoil rearward, and for a short while they are locked together until the barrel is swung downwards by a set of two links, one at the front and one at the rear. Let's see that again and pay attention to those swinging links. Up and forward is locked, down and rearward unlocked, which allows the breech block to carry on by itself, extracting, ejecting, and feeding the next round. The slide is held to the frame by this cross block, and the block rides in a channel, which also contains two important springs. This is the recoil spring, responsible for returning the slide forward, and behind it is a buffer spring. This is meant to cushion the impact of the slide as it is halted in its rearward travel by the fully compressed springs. The trigger uses a unique wraparound transfer bar configuration, which encircles the magazine and provides for a very even, linear pull. Pulling the trigger, of course, tips this sear, which in turn releases the hammer. Unless, of course, we manually place the hammer in the half-cocked position, which has a slight overhand to prevent the sear from moving, and therefore locks up the trigger. This is the disconnector. While it seems simple at first, it has a somewhat complicated interaction with the trigger and sear. It's powered by one of several tines off a combination mainspring. This complicated piece saved on having to make and mount several flat springs. The outer tines simply push on the sear, keeping it tight against the hammer when possible. The inner tine pushes the trigger forward and the disconnector upwards. Let's get a better view. With the disconnector highlighted, watch how it interacts with the center spring tine. We pull the trigger, which tips the sear, the gun discharges, and the slide pushes downwards on the disconnector. This flexes the center tine downwards as well, under the sear. Once the slide returns, the tine is still stuck under the sear until we release the trigger. This is how fully automatic fire is prevented. Finally, here is our firing pin, which on its own is very straightforward. A full-length firing pin that is pressed on by the hammer in order to strike the cartridge's primer, along with a coil spring to make sure it returns rearward. However, the firing pin has a specific shape so that it can interact with the combination rear sight and safety lever. This is a two-position switch. When lowered, a tab turns into the notch at the top of the firing pin, preventing it from being driven forward when the hammer drops. The user is further warned the gun is unsafe by the fact that the rear sight has effectively disappeared. Flipping it up releases the firing pin and allows us to discharge the pistol. Alright, that's about it. A system both simple and complicated and destined to be incredibly influential.